Hello, how's it going? My name is Abiram and welcome to a new series on the YouTube channel where I'm going to be focusing on the applications of brain-computer interfaces. So we'll be looking at different types of ways in which we can use brain-computer interfaces. I'll be really looking into some cases of injuries and trying to see how brain-computer interfaces can be applied in that situation to cut down on rehabilitation times, make rehabilitation a lot easier, and also allow the victim to optimize their life per se. So today we'll be looking at Ryan Shazier's spinal injury. This is part one of the series. We'll be looking at diagnosis through the brain mapping techniques. So who is Ryan Shazier? Ryan Shazier was a linebacker on the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is a team based in the National Football League. So Ryan Shazier, the thing that's happening in the picture right now actually is him being carted off the field after suffering a spinal injury that left his legs paralyzed. He went and tackled the player who had possession of the football, but he went head first, and this actually ended up causing his spinal cord to actually straighten up. And as a result of the spinal cord straightening up is that it's going to take on a lot more stressors. So let's actually look at the spinal cord area that got injured. So we look at this image, right? The yellow region here, called the lumbar vertebrae, is the region that helps actually send the signals from the brain through the spinal cord into the legs. So what actually happened during the tackle was that this spinal cord actually straightened up. It actually became super straight, and this took on a lot more stressors than what it would actually take on. This caused the lumbar vertebrae to actually dysfunction, and then as soon as he fell on the ground after the tackle, he could not move his legs, and that's only because of the contusion in the lumbar vertebrae, which explains the context, or which explains the situation that's actually happening in the image just shown right before. So we are going to be looking at a way in which, so the way in which he was actually diagnosed was with regular visits to the doctor, and then obviously after being carted off the field. What I feel like would be the best method is the fMRI scan, or functional magnetic resonance imaging scan. So in this situation, you can see a patient being around different sorts of practitioners, and then she's about to go through fMRI scan. So what this really means is that the fMRI scanner would actually take a functional image of the brain. So it's like a functional, like kind of like literally looking at the brain as it functions whilst in the scanner, right? The real thing about the brain is that the brain is actually able to send blood over to the part of the brain that's being used in real time. So me speaking right now, I'm using my motor cortex to move the muscles in my mouth to speak, and I'm also producing speech. So that's using a part of my brain called the Broca's area. So that means right now, if I were to have an fMRI over me, it would show blood over that region, like blood really concentrated in the region that I'm using right now. So that's what an fMRI does. It's that it's able to detect or image or take images of the functional anatomy of the brain. And so we'll be using this. This kind of highlights some key deficiencies, or sorry, key, I guess, flaws of behaviorism. If you're really into psychology, behaviorism, or at least the behaviorists like John B. Watson and B.F. Skinner, really looked at science as an observable thing, and that nothing's really related to things happening in the brain. But now with functional MRIs or fMRIs, you're going to have literal images of the brain functioning in real time. And the result of having those images of brain functioning in real time is that you're offering evidence of how the brain works, how the brain's connected to the body, and all that. That's the little side note there. But the main reason for the fMRI is to see if the brain is able to communicate with the motor cortex and to the lumbar vertebrae. So this is what I call a homunculus, right? This is what science calls a homunculus, right? This is the part of the brain, like the motor cortex and the somatosensory cortex, and what parts of the body that they control. Because the somatosensory cortex is the sensory information. It's like your different senses, and then your motor cortex is your voluntary motor movements. So what you do. So like me moving my hand right now is me using my motor cortex. So this is kind of dividing the motor cortex into kind of like the regions or the gray matter where different body parts are being used. So if you see right here with the hip, knee, and the toes region, this is the part of the motor cortex that actually controls that. So what we do in the fMRI scan is we would see if this part of the brain is being lit up, right? Yeah, if it can even be controlled at all, right? And a result of that is that we can see if the motor cortex that's actually able to send signals down his lumbar vertebrae and then try to control the legs, is even working or not. And because his legs are paralyzed, the body's lost control over the blood vessels, and this would cause them to widen in regions where they wouldn't actually widen, because there would actually be no blood flow over here, or actually seized blood flow here, because this part of the brain is not exactly being used. There would be a significant drop in the blood flow when looking at the fMRI scans on the brain, and the sensory information to his legs is being sent from exactly right here, and this being for the somatosensory cortex. And that's what the fMRI should not be able to detect. So this is overall the strategy in which we take to actually try to diagnose the issue with like really technical depth and real-time data identification. In the next video, we'll be looking at what we can do to actually monitor Ryan Shazier during the rehabilitation process using an actual BCI. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.